Hey guys, Casey here. Welcome back to another episode of Lion's Den Investments and Reviews. In today's video or topics I want to talk about is the sale of a lifetime, okay? Now, as an investor, this is very important, so I want you to pay attention because we're talking about demographics and where I see, and just my own personal opinion based on analysis and market experts and what they're saying. I feel like this is where we're headed just based on mathematical certainties when you're looking at stuff like demographics or populations on a global scale from a macro level, okay? Now, the reason why I'm talking about the sale of a lifetime is because there's a guy by the name of Harry Dent, all right? And if you haven't heard of him, I would highly recommend going out and buying his book, okay? It's called The Sale of a Lifetime. And basically, what he wants, what he talks about and points out here is how the great bubble burst of 2017 and 19 can make you rich. And as an investor, like I said, this is really important to pay attention to because the baby boomers, I'm going to pull up a chart here. The baby boomers, as of right now, guys, are, they're pulling out of the markets, okay? They're retiring. They've worked for 30, 40 years of their life. They accumulated small fortunes in their 401ks. And so they're getting to that age now where they really don't want to work. I know personally for me, I've worked with several people who are, in their 60s, going into their mid 60s. And, they're talking about retiring here in the next couple of years. Well, what Harry Dent points out is that the baby boomers, okay, they're the largest group of people on planet Earth that have been working. And with them pulling out, right now you've got 108.5 million baby boomers, okay, and this is just based in the U.S. This isn't on a global scale. But just here in the U.S. alone, there's 380 million people, roughly, in the population of the U.S. The baby boomers make up 108.5 million of that 380 million. Okay, so that's a lot of people, and with all that money being withdrawn from 401k accounts, basically think of it like this: for every seller, there's got to be a buyer, okay, and vice versa. For every buyer, there has to be a seller. That's what makes up a market. Okay, so when you're talking about the stock market, for all these people who are liquidating their stocks, and getting out of their 401ks and retiring, well, you got a bunch of shares going back out onto the market, okay, from what they owned as far as paper assets. And so there's got to be buyers to make up for that on the other end. The problem with that, though, is you've got Generation X here, which is at 63.5 million in the U.S. population. And then you got Echo Boomers, which make up 138.4 million. Now, the thing is, the Generation X and Echo Boomers, just again, my own personal opinion, most of us don't stand a chance when it comes to doing the old-fashioned way of building wealth, which was being an employee and working the 9 to 5. Okay, the baby boomers had it good because they had almost 40 or 50 years of growth and business expansion. When corporate America started taking over, where they could work for another company and they could stay with one company for 30, 40 years. Okay, that doesn't exist anymore. If it does, it's like hitting the jackpot, basically. I mean, you're lucky if you can find a company that you can stay with for more than 10 years. They're just not out there anymore. So Generation X and the Echo Boomers are at a disadvantage when it comes to the baby boomers. Not to mention, we've already had the 2008 crisis that we went through, where a lot of us, Generation X, Echo Boomers, Millennials, we all suffered from that dramatically. Okay, when it comes to financial means of just trying to survive, because what happened was the central bank, the Federal Reserve, started printing on money to get us out of that whole financial crisis. Okay, and then if you fast forward to now, we're going through this pandemic, and just in the last from March of 2020 to now, The Fed has printed up well over $9 trillion of newly printed money, and that goes into circulation. And a lot of people are debating if that's going to cause inflation and all this. Harry Dent believes that we're going to go through a deflationary event first, and then you'll experience the inflation from all the money printing that the Fed has done, trying to keep us out of going into a depression. Now the problem with that is you multiply that or stack on top of that the demographic issue that I'm showing you here, which is the baby boomers liquidating their funds. Not only do you have Generation X, Echo boomers, millennials who are having a hard time just merely surviving, um, and because of that, they don't have the funds to invest like they normally could have. Say if they were in the baby boomers generation, um, there's a dramatic you know lack of money that's going into the markets, um, to make up for those baby boomers who are liquidating their 401k funds. So back to what I was saying, earlier with the stock market, you've got to have buyers and sellers, right? Or sellers and buyers. So with all these baby boomers selling and a lack of buyers, which will be the younger generations, because we're being strangled to death financially through inflation and these continuous crises that take place that are unprecedented, in the history of America. If you put all that together, you come up with the conclusion that, okay, with all that money being withdrawn from 401ks and those stocks being dumped with no buyers, you're going to get a mathematical certainty of a collapse, okay, in the stock market. Prices are going to come down. Now, you could look at that one or two ways. You can look at that as being like a bad thing, because you're going through this deflationary event, and so people lose a lot of money, right? But if you're a smart investor, and this is what smart money always does, when there's blood on the streets, that's when they go in, and that is when it is the perfect time to invest. Okay, so don't look at it as like, oh my God, I'm losing all my wealth. What you should be thinking, if you're an investor and maybe you have some extra money set aside, is look at it more along the lines of the sell of a lifetime, because you're going to get a lot of these big corporations whose prices drop. I'm gonna just go out on a limb here and say that I'm guessing at least 60% drop is what you're gonna see by like early 2021, maybe into like the summer of 2021, because I just don't see that they're gonna be able to hold this together. I mean, the way things are going right now, we'll see what happens with the elections, but I just see that we're gonna have a major turnover in the markets. And a lot of that's going to be because of the baby boomers and all this money printing, on top of a pandemic, where they're trying to find a way to slow the spread of the virus. And it's just a matter of time. If I pull up the Dow Jones chart, this is the monthly chart on the Dow Jones. You can see we've had this parabolic rise on the Dow Jones, dating back to 2009, which was the financial crisis. And it's just continually went up in value over time. We really haven't had any big drops up until February of 2020, and we start dropping. What they do? They start printing up a bunch of money, right? So they brought it back up artificially through the Federal Reserve, and we're right back up to where we were before we dropped. Now we're going into this election, and keep in mind again, based on the demographics that I was just showing here for the general population in the U.S. and baby boomers, we've got a big mass exodus of cash in the 401ks coming out and going back out on the markets. So I would consider that it's not necessarily a black swan event, but it's more of a trigger event that's going to cause prices to go back down. And as you can see here, I drew this back in April. This little dead cat bounce that I was predicting would happen. We actually went above that, uh, and that just shows you the power of the central banks and what they can do as far as money printing. But it inflated things back up, and I think we're going to get ready to roll back over here soon. Um, and who knows where it'll take us? But again, if you don't believe what I'm saying, and you don't know what I'm talking about, go out and buy this book again. Look, I don't make any money off of this. Okay, this is just purely for information and educational purposes only, so you can understand how wealth cycles work, business cycles, and stuff like that. He goes in and shows you the charts dating back like 150 years and shows you the wealth cycles that take place every 90 years. Okay, um, and it's a mathematical certainty. This time's no different because we're talking about demographics and populations. So check out the book. I highly recommend it. It's a great read, and it's gonna give you a new paradigm shift or a new perspective on market crashes when they do happen. Because again, the name of the game here is to make money and not lose money, and you just can't win in the game of finances and building wealth if you're just basically hoping and praying that your corporation stays alive and is able to pay you, for 30 or 40 years, like basically what the baby boomers were able to experience. We don't have that. We don't have that in our favor for the younger generations, and the odds are stacked against us. So you have to find ways and get creative when it comes to making money for yourself. You know, like I said, don't quit your day job, but if you can create something, which I'll go into and shoot another video on here at a later date, which will be like talking about you know starting something, a side hustle, while you still got a day job, but you need to start pivoting like I've been talking about. Build that foundation for yourself and get something going. It's all about execution. Everything starts with a thought, right? And it remains a thought if you don't do anything. So if you get a good thought in mind, and it revolves around creativity and stuff that you can bring to the table to help other people out, get going on it. Why wait? Because it might make you some extra money. And those are things that you can do that your company may not be able to do for you. So, like I said, I'll shoot a different video on that, talking about pivoting again, and not depending on a company to take care of you like the baby boomers did, because we're in a state now moving forward into the future where we're not going to have that luxury. And you want to have some cash built up so that you can take advantage of this sell of a lifetime and transition into the new system that we're going into, which I think is going to be 100% digital, which is why I talk about blockchain and some of these other assets, because you can make that transition if you got some extra cash and ride this next wealth cycle for the next 90 years. And then you're in a position where you're going to be able to benefit kind of like the baby boomers did, but on a much more grand scale, because not even the baby boomers really had an opportunity like what we're going into here that we can take advantage of. So it's all about adjusting your mindset and making that paradigm shift into something new. With that said, guys, if you like what you're hearing, hit the subscribe button below, hit the like button. That'll help with the YouTube algorithms. And I will catch you guys in the next video, okay? Have a great day.